Welcome to my podcast with your host Enes. Today we're continuing with our, let's say, adorable friend, which is Enes, and I really enjoy that and appreciate that we're doing this series, which is about totally economics. So today, our topic is generally socialism, but we can, let's say, slightly drift through some other stuff, but it's okay.
Yes, of course.
So, as we did in the previous episode, like you defined the capitalism in general and who Adam Smith is. So, today, I think we better start with definitions. What'd you say?
Okay. Uh, I like most people, and also I define socialism as, um, the other side of the coin. That
Yeah.
like you have capitalism on one side and socialism on the other side. They both complete each other. Some people claim this, so which I also agree with. Uh, it's simply that after the I can say industrialization era, you have a cruel world that workers are in working in harsh conditions, and somebody is trying to fix this thing, and this is what we call socialism.
Okay.
So if you wish, we could begin just like that,
Yeah, of course.
So,
Why not?
So, I think we better, concentrate on not the philosophical stuff of these thoughts, but the more practical consequences of them in the world. But we, of course, will also, mention those philosophical infrastructure, I can say.
Yeah.
So yes, as you know, when talking about 1700s, it's so cruel in Western Europe, especially industrialization. It's the industrialization era. As I said, it's particularly in Western Europe, and you see those factories and mass production and suburbs in those cities. You have migration. You have a migration problem to the metropoles like Paris, London, and the cities like Berlin, and etc. So it was mainly it has two reasons. One, that is, in factories you can produce stuff so fast and on low prices, so that the farmers could not compete with those prices, and they had to obey them. And also one other problem is that you have this inheritance problem. When you have a field, for example, let's say I have a field which is huge, and then I have 5 children, for example, and then it's being divided into 5, and then it goes on, and it goes on until nobody can provide enough food for their families. So this is one of the problems in Europe in 1700. So people had to migrate to the biggest cities.
So that they would have, let's say, sustainable workforce, and then
Yes.
so that they would make their living.
Yes, that was mainly the point, that they had to make a living. So, but as we all know, that those suburbs were in desperate conditions. You had no healthcare, you had in those factories long working hours, and you had those high unemployment rates, and thus the low wages of this. If there are too many people willing to do a job, you cannot, I can say,
Like you cannot provide everything to every single person.
Yes, and also the workers cannot, I can say, negotiate well with their employees, because like it. Okay, if you do not want to work for that wage, okay, I can fire you and get another guy with even a low wage. So that's the.
So the employer has the all cards, right?
Yes, they have the advantage, of course. So, as I can say, people were unable to fulfill their needs. So we can say it was inevitable that a guy trying to deal with this situation could come up. Like in this case, it's Marx. Marx is our guy. He came up with socialism. Although his ideals were, I can say, interpreted and adopted to various societies, the base upon which they stood was simply the same. Like to solve this situation, to fix it. So he proposes a couple of ideas to make this idea into real, which are, workers were to take the power, like with organized movements such as strikes and revolutions, etc., and thus collectively redistributing those production materials. I mean the industry, like. Let me give an instance, and it will be clear, I believe. We see this in Soviet Union. In Baku, before the Soviet Union, there were many wealthy guys making money out of oil production. Like they were making tons of money of that. And
yeah, of course.
And during the revolution, their kind was wiped out of Union. So. I mean, when saying redistribute, like when using those academic words, it sounds great, but like you
in practice,
yeah, you basically in most cases kill them or exile them.
Yeah.
So that's what I like about those academic terms. They sound very cool, but
yeah, but in practice, it's really
like
let's
cruel.
say
Cruel.
Yeah.
The same is the same happens with also capitalism. Like when I listen to the last podcast, like it sounds so like Pollyanna, like what's this? Like you have these free market stuff going on, and like it sounds perfect, but when you see the prices in the market, so it doesn't feel that right when in real life.
It doesn't sound cool. It doesn't seem cool.
Yes. So let's give a couple of examples what a socialist state provides you. In a socialist state, you're being provided healthcare, like education, housing, and some other basic needs for free. Like it's not free exactly. I mean, you still pay for it. Like while you're giving your tax, like you give a high amount of tax to your state. However, the point is that everybody is able to pay for it. Let me explain you how it works. Think of a pyramid. So like there are three and think of three stages in that thing. So in the high class, I can say capitalism is working, and also in middle class it's also working, but when it comes to the low class it does not work. Like you claim that like free market will solve everything, like you will have the best price ever and etc., but it doesn't work like that. In reality, low class families are in living in harsh conditions. So we can say it's not exactly working. But the point of taxation of this socialist state thing is that like you take high amounts of taxation from everyone, and you provide it, like you redistribute it, and so that you make sure everybody is getting those basic services. So that's the point of it. You still pay for it, but everybody's able to acquire them.
Yeah, of course.
And there is one thing also, like, it is that getting fired is not easy. Like, you have some guarantees. In free market, you can be fired at any time. Like, because the free market thing is that it's also
because the free market thing depends all on the employer, but in socialist state, let's say most of the cards are held by the state, so
Yep.
state provides you security and maybe ammunition so that you have your rights.
Yeah, of course, that's the case. You summarize it well. So, there is also one thing that in a socialist state, you have economic plans. What I mean is that this is mutually exclusive with free market. When you plan something, it's not free, right? Like in free market decides on the prices and the employment and the production prices, etc. But while planning, you plan it basically. It's so this point is clear, I believe. So, as I said, this is mutually exclusive with it. Like, you, for instance, decide on how much grain you will produce this year, or like
like you have economical development program.
Yep, you have it like in like after the Soviet Revolution. I believe it was 5-year plans. Like it's a famous one, and it was crucial for the development of it was crucial for the development of Soviet Union. So, well, in conclusion, I can say these things made some certain changes in the societies. Most importantly, workers have become aware of their power, aware of their potential, if organized well. When you organize like good strikes, and or when you like in 1920s, we see this. Like Soviet Union was like Soviets have taken power in Russia, so I can say the fear of losing their employers. The fear of losing their employees made employers not to antagonize their workers, but to compromise. Like when you feel unsafe, you tend to give more compromises to your workers.
To maintain them, right?
Yes,
have the cards.
Yes, for a bigger profit, you give them some, like you compromise them, and like in this case, it was like I can say like the working hours, for example. After those developments, the working hours were reorganized, and also the working conditions. And in some countries, minimum wage was enforced, like not utterly and at once. It was gradually, and it was not also widely, but it just like it happened. We know that. Like we have, after that certain time being, we have the term of minimum wage, and for some points, for some areas I can say it is compulsory. For instance, I can say Turkey. Like you have to provide a certain amount of money to like give enough money for your people, and also like some day offs and holidays were set, and this list goes on. But I think the point is clear that even though you did not have a socialist republic, for instance, in Germany, it clearly changed the way we live. You know, it made some improvements within our lives. We can say that. Well, however, in like this, like these were the advantages of socialism. However, like in disadvantages side, that you lose the will to work. You know, because you are guaranteed by your state not to be fired. Like, why would you work that much? You know, like why would you work that hard to?
Because you already have your rights.
Yes,
not to be fired.
Yes, and also like if you go to your work, but it's half an hour late, for example, it doesn't make you lose your job, but in free market conditions, you will lose your job for doing that every time.
So we could say in some part of community, the socialist system made people, let's say, less concerned about their work times, or let's say work
living. We could say living, and well, they try to solve this like promoting working, like you know they were.
For example, if you take, let's say, 3 or 4 hours more, you'll get promotion for.
No. I didn't mean that. Like within education, I mean education-wise, you know, like as I said, education was free, and everybody was able to take that education. So because you give the education, as a state, you also have the right to let's not say right, but to power, I can say, to make some propaganda on your people. So one of these propagandas were on about working. You know, like it was promoting working, like you work for this society, and like you just work, and like you just make up something. You know, they were promoting works, and they were trying to like I can say fix this.
I mean, of course. Yeah. I mean, of course, they have to promote working, because since the state has been providing lots of things in a daily life, so that they have to encourage people to work, so that they will maintain their system, the government, so that they won't fail.
Yeah,
I mean, they have to promote those things.
Of course, but the point is that you're no god, okay, and it's no Minecraft. And like,
of course, it's not.
Like, it's no Minecraft where you can turn on God mode and like do everything you want. So whenever you do something, like if it has an advantage, believe me, it will have a disadvantage too. Like it has to. So as I said, like people were pretending that like they were working. I was watching a documentary right after the Soviet Union collapsed in 1989. So there was a young Russian and an elder Russian. They were debating about something. That the young one was yielding at the elder one that like you were pretending like you were working, but you didn't. And right now, free market will come and you will face the consequences of what you've done. And it was something like that. so you can see that like one of the reasons the Soviet Union collapsed was that the economy was not going that well in terms of uh, I can say efficiency.
Stabilization. Yeah, yeah.
Efficiency. And also there is something when you try to plan everything, you know, it might not always go well. For instance, uh, you, for instance, plan producing 200 million tons of grain this year, but uh, something could come up and like you cannot always plan that. And like, you know, in one of the biggest socialist states was Russia, so I will give the Russian example.
Of
So
course.
it's a huge country, and you know, planning everything is nearly
Really crucial.
impossible. Like, not crucial, like yes, crucial, but
But you
nearly
can't do
impossible.
it 100% because it's really impossible. For example,
Yes.
you may not, let's say, predict a coronavirus. Goddamn, coronavirus is going to come up and then everything's going to fail. So that, of course, you may not know that. How could you?
And think about a country that I don't know exactly, but 9 hours or something like that. Like in the east part, like there are difference of hour between the western part of the country and the eastern part of the country is, I don't know, 9 or 10 hours. I don't exactly know. Okay,
Okay.
so think about a country of that size, and like not every part of the country is. I can say like
I mean, we
in
could we
for
could think about it as like as you're governing a whole America without capitalism system. So you don't have states, you have one government, and you're trying to provide every city the same thing, the same opportunities. But think about the size of the country. Like it's
yes,
nearly a continent. You know.
yes, like you know, um, think about it. You know, uh, when you came to Americas with almost nothing, you just come and kill a couple of natives, Indians in America, and then you just take what land they have. Like think about it in Texas, for example. You came in Texas, and like of course there will be private property in that country because there is no state. There is no kind of state. Like think about those uh, Western films. Like
Yeah, yeah. Of course,
think
there's
about
nothing,
those
no
cowboy.
system.
Yeah, think about those cowboy films. Like I was born in Turkey. I've never been abroad, and I cannot think about bounty hunting. Okay, it like bounty hunting. You know, it like that service must be provided by the state. You know, like we have polices, like we have police system, like military, which is a powerful military. I mean, political wise, not also the army stuff. So, like, think about it. Like, I cannot even imagine such a thing. But in Texas, for example, it's so normal. You know, like I believe we will get some comments about this from people around the world talking about this. You know,
Yeah.
culture is a key thing about this you know, systems in working. So you try to come up with an idea of that could you know, work. Like you think that it would work in every part of the world, but it simply doesn't work like that.
Because there are
I can
different
say.
cultures, different community, let's say, different norms of people. So you
Yes, different
can't just,
geography,
yeah,
different everything, you know, different everything, like language, the way of thinking, economics, like education, whatever you call them, infrastructure. It's the world, you know. Like this is why in social sciences you cannot make some certain I can say experiments like in other sciences because it will not just work. Like, uh, it will not simply work. Think about, there are people who think the world is flat. Like, you cannot kill them because they have the right to live, and also you should not kill them because they're they're just like human beings like us, and you cannot force people to become one thing. It will not just work like that. So let's come to the topic. Let's come back to the topic, shall we? So okay, I have
Of
just one
course,
thing
shall
left,
yeah.
and I didn't know if I was going to have the time for this, but turns out we have. Uh, as we said, Karl Marx was trying to fix the situation, and he came up with this socialism thing. However, some people claim that the fixing of this situation that we mentioned, like, you know, those all those rights workers gained, but not just the success of Marx. It was like some people claim that it is success of capitalism. How? Uh, you know about Henry Ford, don't you?
Yeah, I do.
He brought an I can say he brought an a model of production, which is, you know, let's again think of a pyramid. So you also have three stages on it. So first, at first, you sell your goods to the richest persons.
Okay.
However, it will not, like, the amount of people in that class is limited, and thus the amount of money you can make out of them is also limited. So after a certain time being, you will, in free market conditions, you will have to go to the middle and lower classes to sell your goods, and uh, that's why you will have to produce, uh, you know, cheaper stuff for low prices so that you can sell everyone. So this is how they claim that they also profit the other people. So I think we mentioned this in the last episode, but
It was not
you know,
that detailed.
yes, and also there's one another thing, that after those, you know, like in after the World War II and like after that era, companies began looking for different countries which were unindustrialized, and they wanted to enjoy the unemployment, like take advantage of the unemployment in different countries.
So that's
What I
the
mean,
actual reason why France and UK has invaded Africa, because it was unindustrialized, so it was, and there were
oh,
lots of people, so that they could use the workforce in a cheapest way, so that the less, let's say, the less paying out is, let's say, the less paying out have come up with the consequence of greater good profits.
oh well, it look, what you say is true, but you know, you know, Africa, the instance of Africa is a little bit different, like slightly different, because it's, I can say it's not exact like what I mentioned just a couple of minutes ago is not colonization. You know, like why in France and England and other European countries were invading those different countries, were like invasion was a part of colonization. So in colonization, you don't. Uh, so,
Or
when
we
I
can,
try to.
alright, just anyway, just forget about that, okay?
Okay, it. Ah, come on. Okay, it's so
Enes,
complicated.
you're stuck right now. Okay, just
Yeah, I'm stuck.
continue what you were saying.
I'm bloody stuck here. What you told is true, while it's not true. Like
All right,
the mechanics.
being true or not is relative. Okay, so it depends
Yes, it's
on people. So
okay.
just forget about it and just continue what you were saying.
Okay, okay. So let's give different examples that I will not get stuck in. So we have Mexico, for example, or China for mostly American companies. Like they were, like as we said, in after a certain time being in those industrialized countries, you have all those rights, right?
Yeah.
So as a as an as a company owner, you will not make that much money. It means so. So you will go to different countries, and for example, Mexico, China. It was Turkey for many European countries. Uh, so like you go there and invest, like make some investments, and because they have high unemployment rates, because they are unindustrialized, non-industrialized, whatever you call it, uh, you just take advantage of it, and um, and some claim that this is how I can say it provides more benefit to high amounts of people, like more when you go to different countries, like think of China 50 years ago, like let's say 70, 90 years ago. It was not this powerful, right? It was
Yeah.
struggling, like it was, I can say, like you wouldn't see those tall skyscrapers in Beijing, and but think about it today, with all those money and investments coming from different countries, so you will have, like, you will develop, and thus you will gain the power, and you will be able to uh, provide your people a good
Better
life.
services. Yeah.
Yes, and also think about Turkey. It was not the same with how it was 50 or 60 years ago. It changed a lot.
A whole lot, bro.
Yeah.
I wouldn't
and
imagine that.
and after World War II, you know about this. Like there are millions of people. There are millions of Turkish citizens living in Europe,
Especially in Germany.
Yeah, especially in Germany, because after World War II, Germany has lost many of its workforce and citizens. So they
were seeking for workforce, like the employees, so that Turkish people would really suit that. So now we have approximately over 1.5 million people living in Germany.
Yes, something like that. And when they made money there, so they wanted to come back, but because
they didn't make it.
Because they had a living there, they, like, some of them could not, some of them did not come back, but this is why we cannot put an utter difference between those social sciences. When you have economic problems. For example, Turkey had economic problems in those years, and it changed, like, it changed the society. Thus, it's also in the area of uh, it's in the area of what was that? Now it's in the area of different sciences. What was the science
All
that
right,
was?
blah blah called science. What'd you say? Huh?
Ah, so okay. You can cut this when you're editing this, but it's so weird. It's so weird. Like I just when I was making preparation for this, I just forgot a word there, and like I'm looking at on those like dictionaries, like Oxford Dictionary and the other ones, like Google Translation, Turing. Like I could not find it. Believe me, I could not find it. I didn't know if I mentioned that sentence, but it was like it was suddenly gone, and it's just something like this, you know. Like I did not remember the name of social science which is interested in society.
All right. I mean, why would you just stick trying to tell the term rather than just telling the description? I mean, people would understand this. I don't know,
but
man.
I know, but it's just weird, you know. It just goes and
Shall we finish? What'd you say? You got something
okay.
left?
I don't believe so. Like, of course there are too many things to discuss, but I think that's it for this.
First, we don't have time. Second, we don't have enough words to explain it, both
Yep.
of us. So let's just cut here, and we could continue next week or in the next days with new episode.
Of course.
So it was great pleasure that you accepted my invitation between your, let's say, really busy daily routine. Like you have lots of games, series to watch, and things to eat, and hours to sleep. Oh my God, that was really humble that you spared some time for me. Thank you, Enes. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. It was my pleasure.
All right, see you in the next episode.
You too.